Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Hey, I'm fired up that you are here listening to an episode on how to do 100 push-ups in a row. It takes a certain kind of person to be interested in a challenge like this. You kind of might need to have a screw loose or two to want to take on a challenge this big. And the reason why I love this challenge is because it truly changed my life when I took it on back in 2015 for the first time. And by the end of today's episode, I hope to make you a believer. And I feel pretty good about my ability to convince you that the 100 push-up challenge is way bigger than just a physical challenge. In fact, it is a microcosm, a training ground for you to shatter self-imposed limitations, not in just the physical realm, but in all of the realms of your life that matter to you. Your career, your income, relationships, love, freedom, anything that you want. And by the end of the episode today, I think I'm going to have you convinced that this is a gateway for you getting all those things. So let's first start with a story and pull back the lens. Do you know the story of Roger Bannister? Does that name ring a bell to you? Well, in 1954, no human being in the history of mankind had ever been able to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. The 4-minute mile was considered to be something of mythology. It was something exceptional, something that no human being could transcend. In fact, in 1954, there were some legitimate scientists who published research and studies that said the human being, the human body, the human form is incapable of running that fast, of enduring that much strain on the body. We're not capable of breaking the 4-minute mile. Until on May 6th of 1954, Roger Bannister shattered that belief by barely breaking the 4-minute mile with 3-minute 59.6 second mile. But the funny thing happened 6 weeks later. Another man in Finland by the name of John Landy, 6 weeks later, went in and broke that record. And then a year after that, a man by the name of Laszlo Tabori became the third man to break that record. And since 1954, over 1,400 runners have run sub 4-minute miles. Now, what does this tell you? This should tell you that the thing keeping us back, humanity back from hitting a 4-minute mile was not our physical ability. It was a mindset shift that needed to happen, right? For all of human history, no single person had run sub 4 minutes until Roger Bannister did it. And then 6 weeks later, someone broke that record. A year later, someone else broke that record. And then 1,400 other people have been able to do it. That should tell you that it's a matter of mindset shift. As soon as we saw one person do it, we believed that it was possible. And over 1,000 other humans have since done it. Of course, there's a physical element to it. But the prevailing factor of shattering that self-imposed limitation came from a mindset shift. When we are talking about doing 100 consecutive push-ups in a row, whether or not you ever believe you have the ability to do so, and whether or not, here's the bottom line, guys. Push-ups and whether or not you can do 100 is irrelevant. This push-up challenge is about the push-ups, but it's not about the push-ups at all. I don't care if you could do 10 push-ups in a row right now, and that's your max. That's great. Because if you believe 50 or 60 to be impossible, but you take on this challenge and find that you're capable of that, and you blow away your own belief of what's possible for you, then you can take that same belief system into other areas of your life where you've also have self-imposed limitations. So what we are talking about here in this 100 push-up challenge is, can you create a Roger Bannister moment for yourself? And if you can create a Roger Bannister moment for yourself in this challenge, then you can take that into every other area of your life that really matters, right? Your career, your income, your work-life balance, your romantic life, how you want to show up as a parent, any area of your life that matters, where you've probably set out some story of what's possible and what's not, unconsciously. Let me share my story with you. Back in 2015, I was still in corporate. I was working for Prudential Financial. I think it was in my 14th out of 15 years working for the same company. Great company, great career, but when you're working for an insurance company for that long, where risk mitigation is like the core competency, you learn how to not take many risks. You learn how to only place bets in your life where you know you can win. And that kind of energy permeated most of my life. I became really conservative. I only played the games that I knew I could win. And so it became a little bit boring and dull. My life became less adventurous. And I was like, well, I was craving, right? Something that would spark something in my life. And don't ask me why, but this 100 push-up challenge seemed like it was the thing. Now, I had never done more than 50 push-ups in a row in my life. And that's when I was at my peak physical condition, back when I was in high school with 3 sports training all year round. And 50 was hard for me back then. The idea of climbing this Mount Everest, of doing 100 in a row, felt pretty much impossible. And the idea of taking it on was actually a little bit exciting because I wanted to see who I would be going after something 100%, knowing that I had a better chance of failing than succeeding. And could I actually enjoy the journey more than the outcome? Think about how many things that you take on in life where it's like outcome dependent. You're unsatisfied, you're pissed off, you're aggravated, it's a failure if you don't get the outcome you wanted. And we throw away, like, one of the top 10 best-selling books of all time is The Alchemist, right? And that whole story, spoiler alert, is about the journey, not the destination. And we read the book and we nod our heads, we're like, yeah, that's great, but then like we live our lives completely contradictory. I wanted to take on a task where it was not outcome dependent. It was all about, how do I show up going after something really big? Can I become a man that goes after big things in life with uncertain outcome and still proud of himself and feels alive living in pursuit of that thing, even when that pursuit doesn't manifest? That became my why. And then what else might be possible in the rest of my life if I were to take that same kind of energy everywhere else? So I took on the 100 push-up challenge. And by the end of the challenge, I shattered my self-imposed limitations and I did 105 push-ups in a row, shocking myself. Now, that journey wasn't easy. In fact, when I first started, I trained too hard. I didn't warm up. I didn't have proper push-up form. I didn't cool down. I injured myself, took 2 months to recover, and then I had to start all over again, right? When I started training all over again, I got to these thresholds, these plateaus that I kept crapping out at, like 80 push-ups in a row, which felt like a lot, but it didn't seem like I could get over the hurdle. And then I realized I need to do some mindset training. When my coach taught me this technique of, hey, when you get to 80 and the pain becomes too much to bear, even though you know your body has more to go, picture yourself being surrounded by 10 or 15 people who you really care about that are cheering you on, that are getting inspired by you by doing just one more push-up. Can you do just one more push-up? Can you just focus on that one more push-up? And every push-up gives them a sense of hope and inspiration in their life. And that visualization and training technique allowed me to take a look at, holy cow, like I can take the focus off my pain, off my inner critic, and putting it on inspiring others. That was one of the key techniques that helped me to break past that plateau of 80 to getting to 105. And when I broke through that self-imposed ceiling, then it gave me the confidence to look at these other areas of my life where I'd created these stories that were also possibly untrue. Like, I can never be an entrepreneur because I don't have the discipline. I'm great at working for other people and following rules, but I can't create my own rules. I'll just be lazy and I'll screw around, and my business will fall on itself. Well, this microcosm, this training program, this physical and mental toughness challenge allowed me to show myself what I'm capable of and to challenge all of these self-imposed beliefs that I formed unconsciously based on maybe like a more immature version of myself. And since then, I have taken on really big games in my life, ones that I don't know if I can win. Where do you think like this 10 million man challenge came from, right? I want to help 10 million men over the next 10 years get on this path of doing inner work to discover and live the great version of themselves. This is all born, guys, in a 100 push-up challenge. And this is where it's so important to actually pull back the lens again. One of the ways that you will become successful in this challenge, and actually the only way that you will become successful in this challenge, is if you develop a strong why, a purpose, right? You guys know that I am an advocate for purpose in your life. I wrote a book on purpose leadership. If you don't have a strong purpose for doing a 100 push-up challenge, and it's merely a physical conquest in your mind and in your heart, then you will give up when it becomes inconvenient to train, when it becomes too hard, when the initial excitement energy of the first 10 days of training fades, and then all of a sudden it becomes more of a chore. If you don't know why you're doing it, you will give up on it. And that is analogous, metaphorical, to everything you take on in your life. Viktor Frankl said in A Man's Search for Meaning, and he quotes Nietzsche a number of different times, "A man who knows his why can endure any how." And when Viktor Frankl was sitting in a concentration camp with no hope, right? With no autonomy in his life, no agency, he had a why, and that was to survive, to see his family again on the other side, which unfortunately didn't manifest. He didn't get the outcome he wanted, but that why kept him going, kept him alive, and it allowed him to write volumes of books that have inspired millions ever since. A man who has his why can endure any how. So, step number one of doing this 100 push-up challenge is developing a strong why. What does this mean for you? Way beyond merely doing 100 push-ups or doing 50 push-ups or 40 push-ups, whatever your number is. What is your why? And how can this Roger Bannister moment that you are creating in this microcosm of your life filter into the most important areas of your life? The second thing that you need in order to pursue the 100 push-up challenge is you need a plan. And your plan, this is ironic, your plan is only 1/3 physical and 2/3 mental. So if you're taking on a 60-day training protocol, which is what we are doing as we are training as a group of men in the 100 push-up challenge, we have a 60-day training protocol, and only 20 of those days are we training with push-ups. That's it. We are leveraging right now the 100pushups.com training schedule. So 100pushups.com. I'm going to link that in the show notes. And only 20 of the 60 days you're doing push-ups. Why? Because you can't do 60 days in a row of training of push-ups. You're going to break yourself, right? Especially when you're going to some of these higher numbers. In fact, what I found when I did the 100 push-up challenge last year in 2020, so 5 years after I did my first challenge, in 2020 when I went after it a second time, I trained physically less. I trained fewer days. And instead, I actually built in more break days. And I prioritized non-injury because I got hurt the first time. So I made it 12-minute warm-up, a 15-minute cool down, which I was vigilant with. And I felt no injury, no strain throughout the entire training. I learned breathwork techniques, and I ended up shattering my old record of 105 and got 132 push-ups with far better form than I did the last time. Fewer training days, no injury. It's because I prioritized the 40 days of mindset training that fell in between the 20 days of physical training. So you need a plan. Your plan has to be the push-up schedule, which you'll get at 100pushups.com. You need to develop your plan for warming up, getting the blood flowing, the plan for recovering, right? 15 minutes of cooling down so you don't hurt yourself. You need a plan for your proper push-up form, and I'll link a video in the show notes that will give you access to proper push-up form so you don't hurt yourself. Most guys forget about all of this stuff. They don't warm up, they don't cool down, they just do the push-ups, and the push-up form is crappy. They end up hurting their neck, hurting their shoulders. You need a plan for this stuff. And you need a plan for those 40 days in between to visualize, to work on breath work for performance. And if you come to the push-up challenge, and you can go to DominicQ.com, and in the resources tab, I'll link this also. You can download our PDF on how to do 100 push-ups in a row. And hopefully by the time in these next few months or so, like we'll have like a rolling schedule of challenges that you can just jump in on. So head over to DominicQ.com to check that out, to see if there's a challenge that's ongoing that you can jump in on and join a group of other guys to be a part of. So those are the big things, guys, to do the 100 push-ups in a row. You need a purpose and you need a plan, right? The purpose is your why. If you don't know your why, then you will give up when things get hard. And you need a plan for doing the push-ups. And you also need a plan to make sure that your mind obeys you instead of you obeying your mind. And the things that I will tell you, your mind will try and sabotage you throughout this entire endeavor. When you go down to do the push-ups, it'll tell you to stop, or that you're in pain, or that you can't do that many more. I can tell you for a fact that like when I get to 45 or 50 push-ups, my mind is telling me there's no way that you're going to get to 100. But I say, thank you for your contribution. I heard you. Now I'm going to shift it into a different gear, and I'm going to focus on slowing it down and doing one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. And what I found is I can do my first 45 push-ups in 40 seconds, but when I'm going to 132, those last 75 or 80 take me another 6 or 7 minutes. I need a plan to navigate my mind when I shift from that, navigate my breath, navigate my focus. Very different kind of energy. How are you going to train for it? And once you go through a challenge like this, and you can start to make your mind like your asset instead of your liability, think about how that shows up in the long haul for your business. As a parent, as a lover during arguments, you can carry the training that you're doing over into every area of your life that matters. This is not merely a physical challenge. It is mindset training for the most important things in your life. So head over to DominicQ.com, go to the resources, download the PDF. Head over to DominicQ.com and to also find if we've got a challenge going on right now. The idea is to bring this challenge globally to the men around the world to eventually raise $1 million for mental health awareness. You're going to be hearing much more about that. And come over to the Facebook group at any time to see who's doing who's doing the 100 push-up challenge right now. It's the Great Man Within Facebook group, all linked in the show notes. And I'll see you on the push-up mat.